Hello, the Divine Code reading for August 22nd, pages 151 and 152. We are in the chapter, Which Actions Make One Liable for Idol Worship? Topic number 2. Many types of service evolved over the generations for idol worship. For each image and statue, each image and statue, each one unlike the other. For example, the worshippers of Peor used to defecate before their idol, and the worshippers of Merculus used to throw stones towards their idol. These are two idols that are found in the Bible, and they're used as examples for different types. They're used as examples, and they're easy to discuss because they're mentioned in the Bible. Many other distinctive services were instituted for other idols. Therefore, if one defecated before a statue of Merculus or threw stones towards the statue of Peor, his transgression was not a capital sin. This is explained in Mishnah, Sanhedrin, chapter 7, topic 4, Rambam, Laws of the Worship of Stars and Idols, chapter 3, topic 2. If he intends to worship it with his action, he is not liable for a capital sin because it is not the traditional way of service. But if he defecates before Merculus or throws stones through Peor with the intention of degrading the topic, that's discussed further on in this chapter in topic 26. And so if a person does an action that is a normal form of worship for an idol, that action is a capital offense, biblically a capital offense. If the person does something else that's not a normal form of worship for that idol, or as we discussed later today, the one of the 4 temple services. So if it's one of the 4 temple services, or if it's a normal form of worship for an idol, that's a capital offense. If it's not one of those, if it doesn't fall in those categories, some other miscellaneous thing the person does for whatever reason, that's not considered a capital offense. Just the person's acting like an idiot, but it's not a capital offense. Because he did not serve the idol in the usual manner of service, as it says in Deuteronomy 12:30, how did these nations worship their gods? And even I will do the same. Therefore, the judges of Noahide courts need to know the traditional ways of serving different idols. For they do not convict a person for idol worship until they know that he worshiped the idol in a traditional manner. That's explained in Rambam, Laws of the Worship of Stars and Idols, chapter 3, topic 2. We're now going to topic number 3 here. For an idol that has many traditional ways of service, one is liable for performing any one of them. This is clear from the worship wording of Rambam in the Laws of Worship of Stars and Idols 3:2. Idol worshippers establish many different services for each idol and image. Many, denoting that there are maybe different rituals for one idol, and not just that there are many idols, and each one has a particular service. This is also clear from Tosafot on Sanhedrin 60b. So a particular idol might have various things that are considered worships, considered service for that idol. which is part of their, every idol has their own liturgy. Things that are done on behalf of that idol. And different idols will have different liturgies. There might be overlap, there might be things that are totally different. And it's necessary with each idol that it be aware, did a person do something that is a worship item specific to that idol, or one of the 4 temple services. Idol worship that includes many steps in its manner of service. For example, 1, to take blood of a sacrifice in a vessel. 2, to walk with it. And 3, to sprinkle it on the altar. So there's 3 different steps to the service. Causes one to become liable even if he did only one of these 3 separate acts of service in the worship of the idol. It appears that this applies only to a main service itself, such as sprinkling blood. But other actions that are only preparation for the main service, such as receiving the blood in a vessel or carrying it toward the idol's altar, do not make one liable for capital sin, although it is certainly forbidden. So it's difficult sometimes to know. I mean, that's why you have to know what the actual service is. There's items that are part of the service and items that are a preparation. And different idols will have different steps involved. So there might be an idol that the preparing of a libation is considered part of the service. It's an intricate part of the service, and it can't be done outside the service. There's another idol down the street that might have a service where it involves a libation, but the preparation of that libation is not considered part of the service. It's something that anybody does. It's more of a common preparation. It's not a ritualistic preparation, and that varies for different idols. Long footnote. One can learn this from topic 9 below. That's further in this chapter, which explains that one who slaughters in order to sprinkle blood to an idol is liable, because there is liability that comes from slaughtering. Specific to slaughtering, that's because of the 4 temple services. So it gets multidimensional, multifaceted in understanding these things, which is one of the types of service for God in the temple. This ruling is closer to topic 10, which is further on in this chapter, which explains that one who takes an animal and cuts through either the windpipe or the esophagus, but not both, in the process of sacrificing to an idol is liable for slaughtering for idol worship, even though the sacrificial slaughtering usually is performed by cutting through the larger part or all of both passages. But in this case, it is possible that liability for a severe transgression, I assume that means a capital transgression, results from sacrificing in a way that resembles the temple service for God. Or it may be that it is considered equivalent to sacrificial slaughtering because it includes a step in that service that is cutting through one of the passages. However, an action that of mere preparation for the idolatrous service is considered a completely different service, and there must be a separate source from the Torah that teaches that this preparatory step is a capital sin. So it gets very complicated. What actions in this case? I mean, this is a case where the person is doing something apparently doing something in preparation for the idol worship, but they're doing something that resembles something in the temple. And at what point, in what manner does that become? If it's a preparation, or is it close enough to the temple worship that it's considered a liable transgression? This applies likewise in regard to the case of receiving blood of a sacrificed animal. But the service of sprinkling blood on one's altar is certainly a capital sin. This applies even though one is liable for it anyway, because sprinkling blood is one of the services of the holy temple. A practical difference would emerge in a case where the idol's service is not the same as that is the temple service. For example, the idol's ritual is to bring certain items before it in specific vessels. One is liable if he brings these things even if they are not in those specific vessels. But one is not liable for merely presenting those things. I'm not 100% sure what's being said here. If he's talking about what was spoken of earlier as libation, if he's bringing a libation towards the altar, then the libation in and of itself is a temple service, and therefore, if he's involved with it, even if the person is not doing it exactly according to the idol. The idol requires that the libation be brought in a glass vessel, but instead he brings it in a plastic vessel. So it's not really, the person's not performing the service for that idol, but because it's connected to a temple service of libation, it would be considered sufficiently connected. If the person is bringing some other item that's not part of a temple service, I'm not sure whether or not it would apply in the same way. And I'm not 100% sure what exactly is being said in the footnote here. One can bring proof of this from the worship of the idol Moloch. See chapter 4 below, which is different from all other types of idolatry in that the worshiper must perform every single item of the service as enumerated in the Torah in order to incur liability for a capital sin. But for every other type of idol worship, one becomes liable through performing just one part of the traditional service. So perhaps what's being said is that because the person brought something in the wrong kind, he brings it in a plastic rather than a glass vessel, he's doing part of the service. It's not a preparation for the service to bring something. The service itself is to bring flowers that he picked out of his garden. So something like that. If he brings flowers that he picks in the garden, he's supposed to bring it in glass vessel, but instead he brings it in a plastic vessel because he did part of the service, even if he didn't do the entire service. That would be considered sufficient that the person did a capital transgression, except in the case of Moloch, where the entire service is one piece that cannot be separated out. I guess Moloch is the exception that proves the rule that every other case it could be separated out. Perhaps. Topic number 4. When do we say that one commits a capital sin only if he serves an idol with his traditional manner of worship? For all the services other than bowing down, slaughtering, burning incense, or pouring a libation. But one who does any of these 4 special services for any idol, even if it is not its traditional manner of service, is liable for a capital sin. So at first, there's these 4 special methods of worship that if they're done anywhere to any idol, it would be considered a capital sin. Even if the idol is not interested in these services, it's still considered, because these are unique methods of service offered in the temple. Now later on, we'll also hear of a possible 5th one, being singing worship songs, which was done in the temple service. It's a question of whether or not the temple service used the worship songs as a service, or if the temple used the worship songs as a kind of background music, not actually part of the service. Therefore, because there's a question of that, it's kept to 4. Bowing down, slaughtering, burning incense, or pouring a libation. Those are the 4. For example, if one pours wine to Peor, or slaughters an animal for Merculus, these are examples of not being the normal way of serving these idols. If one slaughters, burns incense, or pours a libation as a worship of any idol, even if it's not the customary manner of worship, he is liable for a capital sin, because these services are specifically required for God in the holy temple. As it says, Exodus 22:19, one who slaughters sacrifices to the gods will be destroyed. This is allowed only to the Lord alone. Burning incense and pouring wine are also included in the offerings for God in the holy temple. The same applies for bowing down. Even though it is a service that is not reserved for the temple, it is permitted for a Gentile to bow down to God anywhere. It could also be said that the other, well, definitely, slaughtering would be acceptable, as we showed in an earlier part. And there's questions about burning incense and pouring libation. So a Gentile he definitely can do some of the service, and maybe he could definitely do 2 parts of the service, and perhaps the other 2 outside of the holy temple, if he's doing it before God. If he's doing it before another idol, then that's what's being talked about here. And what's being talked about here is bowing down is definitely permitted outside of the idol for non-Jews. And also for Jews, it's part of the Yom Kippur service and the Rosh Hashanah service, and in a milder way, in an incomplete way, towards regular daily services. Bowing down, however, is only permitted for God, and is otherwise forbidden, as it says, Exodus 34:19, you shall not bow down to another god. It also says, there shall not be for you other gods. You shall not bow down or serve them. This teaches that, first of all, you shall not bow down to an idol, even if it is not the traditional manner of service. And secondly, you shall not serve them in their usual manner of service. So we're seeing that the person is not allowed to bow down, and he's not allowed to do, he's not allowed to serve them in the traditional manner. So it's showing that the bowing down is a separate prohibition. See the laws of worship of stars and idols, chapter 3, topic 3. And also see the enumeration of the commandments according to Rambam in the instruction to his Mishnah Torah and Sefer HaMitzvah, negative commandments 5 and 6. So it's being shown in the traditional enumeration. These are separate. These are separate separate prohibitions. Thank you.